right. Welcome to episode 4 of the Weekly Element. I'm excited. This is a special one. I'm one of your hosts. I am Elemental Dynamics. Also, you can just call me Mark. And also, you can call me the hot one. And also, you can call me the one that's not vain, but very humble.
And then the hottest part about me is frying me in a pan. I'm Sergeant Pancakes, as always.
So today we are going to go ahead and I don't know if we're going to get right into it, but we're just going to talk about it. So this week, there wasn't a lot for me to be excited this week. I was busy this week, so I didn't get a chance to really watch too much when it comes to trailer-wise or anything like that. Wasn't really too much. I did get caught up, and I binge-watched a bunch of the rest of X-Men 97 on Disney Plus. So that's a thing that happened, and that's a thing we're going to be talking about for sure.
I think the first week we did this, I asked you, have you seen X-Men 97 yet? And you said, nah, you haven't had the time. And then I said, dude, you need to watch that show. It's incredible.
Yeah. So we're definitely that. So not much for me. What about you? What you got going on? What are you excited about this week?
Oh man. Well, there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to talk about. I watched some shit this week for the first time that changed my life. So we had the Fallout series coming out, and given that, I thought it would be very appropriate for my unknown element of the week to be, let's say you were in a Fallout situation, right? And the bombs are dropping, things are exploding. Would you rather die in the apocalypse or survive to see the post-apocalypse?
100%. I would love to survive to see the post-apocalypse.
I mean, think about it. If you survive, you're gonna have to physically survive what comes after. In that world, is that something you'd want to live in?
Are we talking about like a Fallout post-apocalyptic world?
Just like in general.
Yeah,
in general.
100%. I want to survive the initial thing and be living in the post-apocalyptic world.
Nah, man, I hope the bombs take me and my dogs and my loved ones.
Why?
Because I don't want to live in that kind of world. Lawless and all the murder and the sand. I hate sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating and gets everywhere.
I see what you did there. I honestly would enjoy that. I don't know how long I'd survive. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I would be able to survive it. All I know is I feel like I would thrive for a little while because, dude, lawlessness, like just being like, I don't know, man. I think about that all the time when it comes to like I used to watch Walking Dead. I'll watch like all these things. Like I constantly fantasize as I'm driving, just like, man, all these bills and crap I gotta pay. We need an apocalyptic event where we're just like, where money isn't an issue, where we don't gotta worry about that kind of stuff. We just gotta go back to our baser instincts. And I'm like, screw this current way.
I'd be pretty sad. I'm in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere. There's not a lot of people around, so I think if there's an apocalypse and they don't drop a bomb directly on me, I think I can go a while. There's like fresh water. There's like I said, not a lot of people around, and as you know, I live on a farm, so
yeah,
I'm not exactly going to be short for food.
Yeah, man, I definitely am. I'm pro. Like, yeah, I think I would be able to do all right if there was an apocalyptic event.
Forget about a post-apocalypse. Mark here is pro-apocalypse.
Like, no, for real. Like, I really think about it. It really is something where, because, again, I'm not saying like I would be able to survive it. I would be for a long time. I'm not saying that, because I am a little bit of a fat knob. So there's that. However, like I said, when it comes down to it, I think I would do pretty good. Like when it came down to it.
You know what I think the most interesting post-apocalypse in fiction is?
What?
Have you heard of Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson?
No.
So Brandon Sanderson, he's the guy who did Mistborn. He's the guy who did what's it called? Stormlight Archive. So he's a pretty great fantasy author. But then he also finished the Wheel of Time series. He wrote the last 3 books, which is, as you know, one of my favorite book series of all time. And in Steelheart, the concept is that people develop superpowers, and that causes the apocalypse because they just destroy the world because suddenly people have powers and they abuse that shit.
Yeah, it is one of those things where that sounds amazing, but yeah, I think that would be exactly what would happen, because I do think about that too sometimes. I swear, when I'm driving, I just think about the most randomest, goofiest things, and it's such a fantasy thing that I think about. Like every interaction I have, everything, I'm always thinking about it in the sense of like, hey, what if this happened? Could this happen? Or this would be. But anyway, yeah, I think about superpowers a lot. Like, oh, what if everybody got superpowers? It wouldn't play out like a comic book. It wouldn't play out like a movie. It would just literally the world would end. The world
we wouldn't turn into the Marvel or DC universe. The world would turn into a PvP active zone immediately.
For real, because when you really think about, and this is gonna be like, I don't know if this is negative or whatever, but yeah, when you think about just people's baser instincts and just people in general, you think about how people are and like the restraint people show just because of whatever reason. Can you imagine everybody started getting powers, man? Like, there'd be no more like people just being okay with someone being disrespectful to them. There's no longer going to be anything. There's people that are going to like, because I often think about sometimes like I'm guilty of it. There'd be sometimes someone will cut me off and I'll just be like, if I could just like take the car and just magneto you into the wall or something. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think about that, but like, I know I have those thoughts, and like, I'm a pretty genuinely nice person, and I genuinely believe that if I obtained superpowers of some kind, I might do some things that might not be above board when it come down to it. However, I wouldn't be like a super villain. In fact, I like to believe that I would 100% use my powers for like the greater good. You know what I mean? But at the same time,
I get you.
The world is people are just messed up. Like, for real.
People are people, man.
Yeah, people are gonna be people. I mean, look, yeah, talk about, yeah, it would be over with. And then imagine, I mean, or it could go the exact opposite way. It could just be like everybody just, if everyone got powers, then it'd be like in the Incredibles when it was like, is everyone super? Then no one is, kind of thing. It would just basically be.
Can you imagine living in a world like that where everyone has superpowers?
Isn't there, I think there's a show, I can't remember what the name of the show is, but I've been seeing clips about it, where is once you get to like a certain age, or like, I think it's like 25 or something like that, you manifest some powers. And the show is about this girl who hasn't manifested powers, but everyone in the world has powers. Like, I saw this clip online.
I mean, that kind of sounds like My Hero Academia, but that's what's
oh yeah, well My Hero Academia is definitely a good example of people getting powers, but this is a live action show, and like the powers are just so dumb. Like, I was watching one clip on TikTok where this guy, his powers is that whenever he touches someone or basically an actual creature of whatever, they immediately orgasm or something. It's like, oh, that's crazy. So like the clip I saw, he was wearing gloves.
Is that from The Boys?
No, this is from.
Sounds like it's from The Boys.
No, I don't know what it is, but I just saw it. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, apparently it follows this girl. She doesn't get powers after she gets to a certain age, and she's supposed to have powers, and she doesn't get them. But literally everybody in the world has them. So yeah, no, that was a good question this week. Yeah, no,
thank you.
Yeah, that is definitely a valid, but yeah.
But yeah, speaking of superheroes and using your powers responsibly,
yeah,
X-Men 97,
bro. I gotta say,
Disney has a lot of powers, and they use them responsibly with this show.
They really
shit.
did, and like, So just as a broad review so far for the first 5 episodes, because this is what we're doing. We're doing this. So today's episode is basically we're going to be doing a review of the first 5 episodes of the season, and I gotta say, so far it has been exceeding my expectations. Like, honestly, my
Give a review in one word. Like, use one word
to review the entire 5 episodes so far.
Yeah.
Oh man, devastatingly good. That's two words, but devastating.
I've got a word for you.
What?
Peak.
Okay. I got you.
This show is peak, man.
Okay, the word I'm going to change my answer. One word I'm going to use is unexpected. That's the word I'm going to use.
What about excellent?
No, unexpected is the word I'm going with. There's a reason why I'm picking unexpected, but yeah, let's just put it this way. So I'm going to tell you this. So my expectations going into this show were, I wouldn't say they were low, but given everything I was hearing about the show and everything that was going on behind the scenes of the show, and then, like, them getting rid of the director, the creator, whatever, and then it just was a lot of things. I'm like, okay, the way the animation looked in the promos and it's just everything seemed like, in my mind, I was 100% expecting Disney to screw it up, to just ruin what made the 90s cartoon so great for me. That's what I was expecting, 100%. Like, I was expecting it to be a nostalgia-filled, just kind of, I'm glad I'm watching the X-Men that I grew up with again. But, that being said, what they gave me, I was edge of my seat every episode. Just like, what is going on? Excitement, just like, holy crap. And yeah, it was very unexpected. Emphasizing the expected.
So did you watch the 90s X-Men?
No, you know what? I never did. I never actually watched the 90s X-Men. I never even heard of it. I never even...
You know what I watched of the 90s X-Men?
Time out. I was being super sarcastic, but you genuinely haven't seen it?
I genuinely haven't seen it. I've seen episode 1 2 separate times, but I've never watched more than that.
No, yes, okay. So I was being sarcastic, but I remember watching it as it aired. I even remember when they changed, was it studios? It was artists. Either way it goes, there was a point where it was supposed to be the ending, and I think like the last 2 seasons were where the animation changed for it. It was like a whole different. It was almost like a whole different show in a way. I remember it being like changing up like that. I'm like, oh, this is different because the animation was so clean and beautiful, but. Still, nevertheless, it was still good as a part of my childhood, and I definitely watched it, and that was what I was worried about. I was worried they were going to ruin my childhood, but honestly, unexpectedly, they enhanced it.
So, for me, how I got into, or my exposure to X-Men from the 90s, is exclusively from the episodes where they crossed over with Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man, the 90s series...
Yep.
I loved that shit. That was like, that show was one of the first things that I saw of Spider-Man. And I remember we visited my uncle who's a vet, and he had Spider-Man on the TV, right? And I can barely remember any of it, but I remember like seeing that and then always watching like on VHS in my grandma's house. It's just, man.
Yeah.
Great memories.
Yep. It's a good show. I mean, the 90s was the golden age of cartoons, for real. Like, when it comes to just the way they did things, and yeah, it was the golden age. And that's something kind of...
I disagree. They were so limited in what they could do and what they could show. I feel like right well, not right now. We are kind of on the end of the peak of animation because the freedom to express your the message you want to send and the stories you want to tell, that's kind of at an end now. But we went through such a phase of innovation with stuff like Infinity Train and like what's the show on Netflix, Inside Job. It just man, it's kind of crazy the world we lived in and the stuff we got for a while there.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good we definitely are going to touch on that in another episode for sure, because that is definitely going to be...
Are you a big X-Men fan? Would you say, like, in general?
In general, okay, so... Yeah, yes and no.
More of a Wolverine fan?
I'm more of, like, so I'm a Marvel fan through and through, 100%, and we've already established that. So for me, X-Men, my real exposure to X-Men was really the cartoon series and then the movies as they were coming out. Like, I've read X-Men comics. I remember when I was in the 90s where Pizza Hut used to have those read a book kind of thing. You get like free pizza and stuff like that, and they had like and I got like comic books from there whenever we'd go to Pizza Hut or something. So I do remember that, but when it comes down to X-Men, I never really fully read the comics like I did like Spider-Man or something, you know what I mean? So, but I was a fan and I did, I watched a lot of the cartoons, which is most of my exposure when it comes to just my X-Men is the cartoons that have come out since the 90s. I used to even watch just the old school 80s cartoon that they had. So yeah, but I do know enough about the characters based off of that and in what I have read in comic books.
So, which comics have you read?
Pretty much, I remember reading some of the Ultimate X-Men stuff.
Interesting.
I've read some of the original X-Men too, like where Wolverine was in his brown outfit and things like that.
So, I think that's the Chris Claremont era of X-Men?
You could be right. But yeah, there's and then I've read some Uncanny stuff. So yeah, so there's a lot I've read over the years, and I just like I said, I know enough about the X-Men just based off being a Marvel fan in general. But yeah, when it comes to X-Men, my main exposure has been like the cartoons and stuff,
and the Hugh Jackman movies.
Yeah, just the X-Men movies in general.
So I think I read a lot more comics than you. Just going off, like, well, at least with X-Men.
I know you do. Like, it's definitely because I haven't because I remember when I was a kid, I used to read comics all the time. Like, I definitely read a lot more. It's been quite a while since I've sat down and literally like went out of my way to buy comics and stay caught up on stuff. I think the Ultimates universe was the last time when I really would, because I would go to the library because they used to take they used to have, when the Ultimates comic books came out, they'd make like the little book versions, or it was like 5 or 6 comics in one, issues in one, and you would like do that, and it would be like volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, all that stuff, and that's how I used to consume all the stuff, and you would go to the library and do all that. But since then, I haven't really. Since everything went digital, I've just kind of go when I go.
So I went into a real X-Men phase at one point, and I read so much. I started with they did a rebrand of a couple of Marvel's biggest stuff. I think it was around 2012 when the Amazing Spider-Man movies came out. They did like season 1s for characters. So they did a Daredevil season 1, a Fantastic Four season 1, an X-Men season 1. I don't remember if they did any other than those. I remember that. And the Spider-Man one, of course. And I read the X-Men season 1, and then I was like, this is pretty neat. And then I forgot about it for years. And then once I was out of university, I picked up I don't remember what it was, but something on YouTube showed me the Phoenix 5. Mm-hmm. I think it was around the time where Marvel Snap was doing variants with the Phoenix variant. So you had Magic, you had Colossus, and I don't remember the other one. But anyway,
I remember what you're talking about. Yeah.
Regardless of that,
the Phoenix
I
Force.
thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I read Cyclops' speech, and that was really, really cool. This was like, I think last year or the year before.
That was right around the X-Men versus Avengers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that was the whole thing about X-Men versus Avengers, and then after that, it was the era where Cyclops was kind of Marvel's new anti-hero. And he was dating Emma Frost in that whole era.
I do remember that.
I got into like Wolverine and the X-Men with Jason Aaron, where they had Wolverine and Storm as headmaster of the Xavier Academy.
100%.
And I discovered some of my favorite characters in Marvel from that, and it was like this whole new world was opened up to me. And it's characters like Kid Omega. I don't even know if you know who that is. He's like, oh man, he's so cool. He's like he wants to be a villain so bad, but he's just kind of a dick. He's kind of like this punk rock telepath, and he's just really, really fun to read. And the stuff that he gets up to with Wolverine as his teacher is just, I don't want to use the word wholesome or heartwarming, but it really hits, you know? And I read a lot of those comics, but then at some point, Marvel editorial gets in the way because they have these crossover events and they have these situations where suddenly the comics characters the writers don't get control over their characters. So characters would have their relationship altered in a specific way, and then in the very next issue it would just be undone. But so that frustrated me so much, and I was like, oh yeah, I now remember why I don't read the big two comics, because it's just nothing sticks. There's just no status quo change. The big two, Marvel and DC.
Oh, okay.
Because like after reading Invincible, right, and I think I've brought up Invincible at least once per episode so far.
Yeah.
But after reading a comic that has like a beginning, a middle, and an end to the story, where there's consequences for the characters' actions, and you know that stuff that happens are gonna have actual weight, and it's allowed to like resolve in a way that's interesting and that sticks. And you just don't have that with Spider-Man. I mean, like, how long has he been 1 year out of high school now? They keep bringing him back to this status quo and just don't allow him to grow as a character.
Hold on, what are you talking about? How did we get on Spider-Man? But what do you mean, like, 1 year out of high school? Spider-Man... What are you talking about? Hold on. What are you saying?
So Spider-Man as a character isn't allowed to have a stable job. He's not allowed to have... Like, I know he's been through college. I'm not, like, saying he's been literally 1 year out of high school. But they keep bringing him back to that kid hero phase. And it's just...
How do you figure?
I don't understand why they... Literally, they don't allow him to grow up. He has to constantly be broke. He has to constantly be single. He has to constantly have his life ruined and brought back to the same point. It's like he's frozen in time, worse than Captain America. He's not allowed to mature. The last time he's had any significant character growth that actually meant anything was in the 90s, and they undid that.
How? You're saying
I think Superior Spider-Man, actually.
Stuff. You're saying some very blasphemous things right now.
This is the truth. This is the truth. Spider-Man hasn't been allowed to change or evolve as a character in decades.
What? Okay. Hold up. Are you talking about, like...
In the comics.
In the comics, like, just overall, like, from the beginning, or, like, just in the last couple years, or, like, in the 2000s?
I think since Todd McFarlane drew the character was the last time...
What?
Yeah. And I'll stand by it. Well, no, actually, it was Civil War. Yeah, it was around Civil War. That was when Spider-Man got stuck in time and hasn't been allowed to develop as a character ever since.
I don't even know how to respond to that. That is crazy.
I mean, they had this. They and it's not like he doesn't grow at all. It's just the growth isn't allowed to stay. Like, he had Parker Industries, and then they invented a machine that figured out that it was Dr. Octopus in his brain, and he just lost his university degree.
Bro,
like I remember
Superior Spider-Man was a legitimate run.
I mean, it was very decent. There are some very interesting choices made
Peter
in that
Parker
run.
literally was dead to the world.
I mean, he was never dead. He was dead for like 3 issues.
Whatever, he was dead to the world.
He was dead for 90 pages.
It's man, I don't know, man. I'm starting to rethink our friendship. To be honest with you.
Okay, who's your most recent favorite Spider-Man author?
The most recent favorite? I don't have.
When's the last time you read a Spider-Man story and were like, "This is heat"?
The last time I actually read and sat down and went out of my way to read a Spider-Man story was the what's it called? The Mephisto one where he. What the fuck was it called? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Are you talking about Brand New Day?
Yeah, where like he like made the deal to like make everybody forget that he was Spider-Man. Also, basically the storyline that they kind of used from the make the movie. That was the last time I physically had a physical comics that I was reading was that one. But I haven't had a chance to read anything new since like 2000. Like 2000, I don't know, like 15 or something like that.
Do you know when Brand New Day came out?
When?
And that's like after the Mephisto reset. That was almost 20 years ago now.
Man, I keep forgetting how time has flied, bro. It's 2024.
And that's what I'm talking about.
That's crazy.
Like the last time there was a significant change in Spider-Man's mythos was almost 20 years ago now.
I hate that. I hate everything about that sentence.
I know, right?
I hate everything about that sentence. Like, I got caught up in that. Like, you might be right, actually, now that you say that, because I am forever, like, when I say 30 years ago, in my mind, it's like the 80s. Like,
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 20 years ago now is like...
Oh yeah,
man.
okay. Like, in that context, so the last time I really, oh my God, it's been almost 20 years. Oh, that's crazy. So you might be right.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't actually, like, Superior Spider-Man was probably the last one where I actually was looking at physical comics, and then after that,
they undid it.
And then after that,
everything that happened in that series. They had Doc Ock clone himself a new body, become Superior Octopus, undid it. He's just back to being an old guy now. How? Don't ask me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Man, the thing with comics is they want to exist in this golden zone. They want to exist in this Goldilocks era where everything stays exactly the way it is and nothing ever changes. Aunt May has been dying since the 60s, but that woman can get no rest because editorial keeps bringing her back.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see
keep making her younger too.
I can see
the longer the comics run, they make Aunt May younger constantly. Like she was a 90-year-old woman in the 60s, and nowadays she's like 40 at best.
Well, you also gotta look at just okay. If you're talking about that, like, so you gotta look at that's another product of the times type situation where in the comic book industry, you're gonna get changes like that. You're gonna get the inconsistency. That's part of what makes comic books great. And multiverses, multi-runs, different artists. But, like, Amazing Spider-Man and then all that, like, there is a through line Spider-Man. Like, the core main I guess you could say 616 core of Spider-Man, like, that started off way back when to now, that still ran and was still good. But there are a lot of various spectacular, all that stuff. And so, honestly, the Todd McFarlane era of Spider-Man was pretty legit. But, no, you know what? I just remembered. I had one. It's the, what was the artist? I can't remember the artist. His style was super boxy, super, like, everything looked all sketchy. I can't remember. Was it Rob? No. I don't know, man.
Is it John Romita Jr.?
Yes, I think that's exactly the one I'm thinking. John Romita Jr. It was because I remember everything was like super over exaggerated. Like everybody was like, "Yes, John Romita Jr." I just looked it up because he did the Spider-Man. He did that. I had to like the whole thing. I even still got it actually. I'm pretty sure I still got it. It was during the one where like Spider-Man he was like he just became a teacher, and it was that dude Morlock or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
I love that
and
run.
Basically,
that was pretty good.
Dude was like on his butt for like days on end, and he couldn't like Moreland, yes, and he kept doing that, and so it was like, and then he met Ezekiel, which was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that run, because then he did the also too some Daredevil stuff that I liked, and yeah, that was the last time I really dove into Spider-Man. Was the John Romita Jr. run, and that was like
that was a while ago as well.
That was like early to mid 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that was like.
Also, I remember one of my favorite parts about that run was when Spider-Man they confronted the whole school shooter issue in that as well.
Yes, they did, because that was right around the time when that happened, and it was like his first day of teaching. Some kid came, and it was like the kid that was getting bullied a couple pages before. Yeah, no, that was the last time. That was the last time that I genuinely went out of my way to read just comic books in general.
J. Michael Straczynski, I want to say.
Yeah.
Man, it's so sad to see the Nick Lowe run. Sorry, not Nick Lowe, the Zeb Wells run. With John Romita Jr. doing the art, because there's just all that energy he had in the early days of Marvel just look like they've been sapped out. But anyway, we have gone on a Spider-Man tangent.
Way off course. We are way off topic. Yeah, so that is definitely.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that for
my
sure.
My X-Men exposure was from the fallout of Avengers vs. X-Men, where Cyclops was a fucking badass. And I remember there's this one issue where he and Wolverine go to a Sentinel factory, and they're just at that point they're like full-on enemies, but they team up and take the shit down because both sides agree that this Sentinel factory cannot be allowed to exist. So going into X-Men 97, I had zero expectations for what the series could be. I literally started watching it because it was on Disney Plus and I wanted something to watch on a Friday afternoon. And it blew my mind. It was so good. Seeing Cyclops being a badass as I know him to be, despite what the movies and the media is telling me, bruh, it felt so right to see him being allowed to be cool.
Yeah. So let's do that then. Let's dive in. Let's go to episode 1. When it comes to that specifically, because I know we didn't really like get too much into it when we were talking about it a couple episodes ago. But yes, no, the way episode 1 starts off, it's like they didn't even give us they just were like, look, this is what we're offering. Here it is. And then just Cyclops being the star of episode 1, just being like, no, here's what Cyclops really is. The man was moonwalking with his laser beam. Like, what is this? He was holding his own. He was freaking Aikido, like ninja style punch, and like, what the heck was that? It was amazing.
You see Storm and Forge taken out, and they're like, okay, these are two of the most powerful mutants you'll see in X-Men lore, and here's Cyclops, and he solos.
Legit. He legitimately did. It was just like, yeet, counter, whoop, whoop. It was like, man. But yeah, no,
there's this one part where he like uses his eye beams, propels himself to a guy, blocks all of the guy's punches, and then he just does this cheeky little smirk and blasts him with the lasers. Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. Good. It is so good. I also love the part where they're like, quick, take his visor before he can do anything, and he's like, oh no, please, hey, I surrender. Not. It's just so good.
Bro, all I know is like that when I talk about See, here's why I like that they did it that way. Because again, a lot of people's expectations. There was some that were good, some that were bad. It's just people had a hesitation. I feel like I can confidently say people went into this with a hesitation. Specifically to people who grew up watching the original X-Men series, like in the 90s. There was definitely an error. So starting the show off, just right into it, just boom, this is what we got for you. And then I was like, the animation style was legit. The like smoothness of it, the way they were talking, it was just, holy crap, this is what we're in for. I'm locked in. It was the one thing that locked me in. He was just, because then you go on from there and you just get to the mansion and you get to where, and it's like, okay, they're legitimately having a conversation. This is okay. I feel like I'm watching the series again. Okay, we just picked up where we left off. This is just the next season. That's all it is. So yeah, I was very excited about that. So that first scene was definitely a welcomed
introduction. They were like, listen, this is what the series is. Be ready.
Yeah. So
what I love about this show is they blend modern technology and animation and like all of the good stuff, all of the advancements we've made with that classical secret sauce storytelling, you know? They take what made Saturday morning cartoons compelling and put it in modern, flashy, fluid animation. And I love that shit. It's like Rise of the TMNT. It's like crack, you know. It's so good.
100%. And they have everything in that. They have it in the sense of like, so yeah, you got they introduced to you first of all. Like, here it is. It's the same thing. However, we got this different version of it. The fighting is different. He was bleeding, so that's cool. So it's like, okay, so we're getting more legit with it. And then we'll talk about this in later when we start reviewing the other episodes. But they definitely are taking advantage of it being a streaming platform when it comes to some of the things in the episode, what they could do, which is awesome. Which to your
are we spoiler free? Are we still spoiler free?
No, we're spoilers, bro. Like. We are just. I'm gonna even write that when I do the title. It's gonna be spoiler review. Like I'm not even gonna sit there and try to do non-spoiler stuff. To be honest with you, it's just so hard. Like at this point, look, if you're listening to our stuff, you just expect spoilers. Legitimately, like if you haven't watched the thing we're talking about, go watch it. Come back, listen to us. But yeah, no, you see that. You see the tongue-in-cheek of it all. You get the fast-paced nature of it. It's very seamless. And then, you know, the art style in and of itself, I forgot what the art style is called, but the thick black lines and like remnant of the comics of the time, but also, too, it just pops it out. It's very bold. All I know is it's good introduction, get that, but Cyclops doing Cyclops things. Like that was the thing that I think we did talk about this briefly about Cyclops being portrayed in the movies and in some of the cartoon stuff and just in general. Like mainstream versions of Cyclops definitely have been more of a whipped version of the character, but
they have not done him justice.
This did Cyclops justice because you got to think about it. Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men. Charles Xavier,
that guy gets Wolverine to do what he says.
Yeah,
like there's no way he's not going to be leader. Cool.
So like to make him kind of be this, the way they've portrayed him. In like since the movies came out and stuff like that, it was like, yeah, no, that's not Cyclops. But we had Wolverine, you know, like Hugh Jackman just made Wolverine his role, so that's what everybody loved. And even now, like with the new Deadpool movie, like people were so jacked. They're more jacked about Wolverine being in an MCU than overall X-Men being in MCU. So, yeah, first good introduction, good way it goes, but then just the way. And
it also sets up the terrorist attack. They've got like Cable talking in Jean's vision. They've got like I don't even know what that Sentinel is called. It feels like they're blending a lot of stuff. I mean, Krakoa gets attacked so many times. Also, I find it really interesting that I wonder if they're gonna do the living island aspect of Krakoa. I don't know if that was a thing in the 90s series.
I don't know. I don't remember, man. I have to go back and rewatch the 90 series 100%. Oh, how can we hold on one second?
Krakoa is just a dude. He can just like get up and punch people.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. There's this one part where the X-Men are attacking the Hellfire Club in Wolverine and the X-Men. And like the Hellfire Club has a bunch of Krakoas, so then Iceman makes himself a giant ice mech and he just starts fighting them. It is amazing. Like, you have no idea how good that era of comics is, dude. It is unbelievable, and it feels like this series is giving me the same feeling as when I read that. Like, it's giving me that endorphin. It's giving me that hit of like action and heart and storytelling, and it works for me on a spiritual level.
Yeah. Let's backtrack. Let's not just overlook the title sequence. Like, I was so excited when they did the Marvel logo. So like the official Marvel Studios logo, but Marvel Animation. So like, cool, X-Men is official MCU. And then also too, it was just like the way it transitioned into the, it was like, woo! And then they recreated it exactly frame to frame almost, but they had little, the little spots that were different. It didn't even feel different, and that's something that we'll talk about too. Like, they keep changing the opening.
What they do with the title sequence is they don't change it. They just make it like you remember it being in your head, I feel like. Because, of course, I've seen the X-Men animated series. Even though I haven't seen the series, I've seen the title sequence. It's like one of the greatest of all time. So I've watched that shit so many times. And then just seeing the way they changed the explosion in the beginning, they changed the way Rogue is animated. Oh man, Magneto. After episode 2 where they have Magneto and he pulls the metal bars and creates the X.
We'll wait when we get to that. We'll get to that episode. We're on episode 1 right now. So don't go ahead. Because I was going to talk about something like that too, but that's for episode 3. I think it is. So before we get moving into other episodes, let's finish up episode 1. So yes, the opening sequence, the one thing I liked about the initial opening sequence was that it was like almost like a shot for shot remake. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's amazing. I felt the same energy I felt as a kid and then some.
It doesn't feel like nostalgia bait. That's the other thing. It doesn't feel like they're just pulling on the nostalgia hairs. It feels like they genuinely have a love and a respect for this thing, and they want to do it justice.
Yep, 100%. I agree, because the vibe I got from it was definitely it's Saturday morning right now, and the first 2 episodes I watched it on a Saturday morning. Like, I woke up and watched the episodes before I went and did what I had to do for the day. I'm like, it's Saturday morning, X-Men's here, so that was cool. Sunspot being in there was pretty legit. Like, it's just literally every character was exactly how I remembered them. Every single one. And I'm like, that is cool. And then on top of and when you think about how the opening sequence of Cyclops doing what he does in the fight, and it's like, okay, this is what you're going to get action-wise. When we get to the mansion, it's like even more, they're like, okay, cool. Not only are the fights going to be better, but the story is going to be good too. Like, we're sitting here, they're talking about deep stuff now. Like, Jean's pregnant, they're talking about baby stuff, they're talking about whether or not they should be here, and like, it's for real, they're hugging kids. It's like, okay, we're in this now. We're legitimately seeing real stuff. And that goes to your point about
that talk that Jean had with Storm, where she was like, is it wrong of me to want my child to be normal? How do I explain to my child that they are going to be hated and feared their whole life? Holy shit, man.
100%, bro. It was crazy. Like, Wolverine had this show, episode 1, really, really does lock you into just what you're getting when it comes to the the meat and potatoes, the deepness of it all, like Rogue and Gambit talking in the club, and that dynamic, which, you know, Morph and Wolverine's friendship, which is so cool because it's like a good payback to, because the first episode, 2 episodes of the X-Men I've ever seen was called Night of the Sentinels, which is pulled right out of the comics, which is another thing I like what they're doing
Jubilee's
here.
Introduction also pulled basically out of the comics.
And so the end of that is they leave Morph for whatever reason, and Wolverine's very angry about that because that's like his buddy and all, you know what I mean? So like the way they have him, and it's just everything. The dynamics are good. Actually. Yeah. Morph being in and turning into Jean while she's pregnant. He's like, come on, man, you know it is one. Morph is a mess in this show. I can tell you that. Like, he is being messy, bro. Like, no filter at all. He ain't nothing for the stuff he's saying over and teasing him about Jean and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that part where he morphs into Jean and is like, "Oh, look at all our perfection. Look, aren't you suffering seeing how perfect we are together all the time?" Good grief, man.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Actually, it took a while to get used to Wolverine's voice in this because I'm so used to Steve Blum doing Wolverine that's kind of the voice I read when I read the comics.
I can see that.
So hearing this voice actor, I was like, I don't know if I don't know how I feel about this. But then, as I got used to it, I was like, holy shit, Wolverine actually sounds Canadian. That's incredible.
Right. Because, like I say, so when Steve Blum is definitely I know him as Wolverine too. However, this was my Wolverine voice. Whenever I would read, and this is the voice I would, imagine when I'm reading. But yeah, that club
That's
scene,
crazy.
and then when they went and talked to Trask in the prison or whatever, yeah, that leading into Jean's vision about like Gyrick and all that stuff. Oh no, Gyrick was the one in the prison, and Trask was the one they were looking for.
Yeah, he was hunting, and then they had Madeline read his mind, and oh man.
You mean Jean Grey?
No, that was Madeline Pryor.
Oh my god. Bro, you're right, it is. But let's stick to the episode. We don't know this yet.
I thought we were doing spoilers!
We are! I'm just messing with you, man. Anyway, yes, no. Jean Grey, or Madeline Pryor, yes. Her doing the vision and seeing all that was, like, super crazy because that was intense. I'm like, whoa. We're, like, seeing some real, like, anger and it was just crazy. But that led into one of the coolest things ever. Was when the X-Jet got destroyed and Cyclops was just like, what? Nope. Everybody started falling out, and that's the clip we watched, and it's just like, he just was falling.
He just waits for everyone else to get caught, and they're flying, and he's like, okay, good job, everyone.
And then just does the most epic baller stuff ever. And it's like, what?
Need help, by the way.
He was like,
Dude,
I'm like, so is somebody gonna save Cyclops? Like, because everybody else got caught and saved. Like, what about Cyclops? And he's like, he smiled, bro, and he did the X-Men Evolution save with his I-beam. Which a lot of people that watch that probably don't even know about the X-Men Evolution. Because honestly, I feel like
that was such a good show.
I feel like there's a lot of people that get a little sidetracked that don't know about X-Men Evolution, and it sucks because X-Men Evolution, I feel like, flew so far under the radar when it came out that you definitely, if you didn't know it, you didn't know it. But X-Men Evolution was top tier. It was another good example of a great, because in X-Men Evolution they were teenagers still, they were in high school, they were actually, you know, learning how to be X-Men. But Cyclops, even in that, was like a leader dude, you know what I mean? But
yeah, and they had Wolverine as Professor X's friend, who was kind of like the drunk uncle.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot about that show. Like, that's where X-23 was created. So there's that.
Really?
Yeah. So X-23 was created in X-Men Evolution, and then they went. They like basically X-23 was the Harley Quinn of Marvel. Like how Harley Quinn was made for the series, the animation, the animated series, and then it became what it did. Yeah, X-23 was
That's crazy.
X-Men
I didn't
Evolution.
know that.
Yeah, X-23 was her first appearance for her. But yeah,
she and Angel are a thing in the all new X-Men run that I really love, and they have this. Oh man, they have a really tender back and forth about like putting themselves in danger and like watching your loved ones get their guts ripped out and shit. It's incredible.
So the reason why I brought up X-Men Evolution, because there's an episode in X-Men Evolution where Magneto he has this moon base or whatever, and he has a thing that like amplifies or like enhances the immune abilities and then basically speeds up their whatever. And Scott and Alex, Havoc and Cyclops, they go in and they get grown. So Scott's able to like open his eyes, so he's got full mastery of his optic beams and all that stuff. And so they're falling, and then they look at each other, and Havoc uses his beams to like blast the ground, and he uses his optic beam, and they just like safely land to the ground and everything.
Havoc is also such a cool character.
But the way they like animated his beams and the way he did that when he was like, and he like, and then like the smoke clears and hero pose, he was like, to me, my X-Men. And then they all just show up and it's like, and it's
they put the stinger in the background.
Yes, bro. That scene gave me so many goosebumps, bro. I was literally just like, we're in this right now. He was like, to me, my X-Men, and they were in it, bro. And I'm like, and then they had the little optic beam flash of the circle, like bro. When I seen that, the way they all landed and just ready to go, I'm like, yeah, this is. Yeah,
I'm convinced you cannot watch this show and not become a fan.
100%. 100%, bro.
I saw so much discourse of people saying, "Oh, they ruined the X-Men series. They made it so garbage. They made it so trash." I'm like, how?
No, man.
How can you genuinely watch this and not have a good time?
Bro, when they were fighting Master Mold, like, that was legit. Scott was like, he said, he was like, final warning. He's like, final warning, Trask. And Trask, like, then he was like, all right, bet. And he's like, all right, X-Men, do your thing. And it's like,
oh man, and then they're surrounded by all the junkyard sentinels. Yeah. And he goes, Storm, give him the forecast.
Give him the forecast. Oh, talk about baller, like, one-liners. The way they all
this show has some of the best superhero dialogue in anything.
It's 100%. Like that. And then when they said, and they're like, you know, it's like they're fighting, and Rogue is like freaking pile driving sentinels and ripping heads, and you know, just freaking Wolverine, and
Beast be like, hello, my ill-fated foe. Might I let you consider a change of heart?
It is so crazy. It's like, it is funny. It's one of those things. And then he like controls the Sentinel, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He jumps inside the Sentinel and just starts fighting with the Sentinel, which is absolutely crazy. And then if I'm not like,
Beast
and then the
is
whole
also
time,
one of my favorite X-Men. I just love him to bits.
Got
like, you get someone who can say, "Oh, my stars and garters," and it doesn't feel weird. It feels earnest and sincere. Like, man, how can you not love that?
Bro, you talk about saying Storm the forecast, and it's like the way she comes out. And then let's not forget to talk about the sound of the show. Let's not forget about that.
Unparalleled.
The soundtrack and the pure orchestrate of whatever the word is of it. Like when she walks out and she's just standing there and she's just like turning the desert to glass. And the lightning
hits the desert.
And she freaking obliterates the Sentinels. Like, come on, bro. What are we watching right now? And then and then Wolverine and Gambit doing their little secret move, whatever the heck that was. And like,
I love how when Wolverine comes back after that, his costume is just ripped to shreds.
Oh yeah, I mean, his stuff exploded though, and like,
Why do you think they caught Wolverine? Like, why do you think they flew him to the ground? They could have just dropped him and he would have been fine.
It's one of those things where that was, look, here's what we're hearing for, man. We are getting in it. We are here. We are excited. We are like, boom. But then I gotta say, how it ends, it's even crazier than like Magneto being like, you know.
Oh man, I love the line he goes out on as well. So you have finally realized what I have known all along. That the great Charles Xavier can make mistakes. Oh, so cold, dude.
Bro,
Why is he so mean?
bro,
Like, it feels like he's just... he's not even trying to make them like him.
What? Like, this is happening. And, but I think that's good. Okay, so then, yeah, going into episode 2 now is just a great progression even of that, because again, now just the first time we start seeing like the difference in opening sequences when it comes to they're changing everything up to match the episode that happened before. And like given the whole Madeline Pryor thing, like even Jean Grey changes in the thing.
Yeah. In the intro.
Mm-hmm. Like Magneto going through and like, you know, because it generally makes sense that Magneto would do this upon Charles's death, given the what's it call it, the God, the relationship between the two of them. You know what I mean? And they do a really good job in this episode of like really making you be like, I don't want Matt, because Magneto in the original series, like, he was the enemy. He was the bad guy. He was the guy he was bad guy. But like, they really made you kind of on edge about him being the leader the whole time. You're like, you're thinking he's gonna do something. He's gonna do something. He's gonna betray him. He's not gonna follow through. But then they did something that I wasn't expected. They actually had him follow through, especially in the end. We'll get to that. But the whole time, they're just all like, yeah, no. And Scott being like, nah, bro, I'm not. It's not happening. Even as everybody else was starting to come on. So,
man, it's really crazy how the longer time goes on, the less they can portray Magneto as a villain because he just gets so much more correct about the state of the world.
Well, see, the thing
how do you feel about his costume, by the way?
I think it's actually pretty good. It's definitely comic accurate, that's for sure.
It's very 90s. It's very 90s.
And I like that they did that. They like that they really, really did just stuck with the 90s aesthetic of everything. Like they really didn't try to update. They were just like, no, we're going straight, bright colors, spandex, 90s. You know what I mean? But
I would have liked to see some of his alternate looks he's had in the comics, maybe his white uniform, because Magneto's been the leader of the X-Men before.
Right, but and that was more later year. That was more like early 2000s and 2000s. It was more, and it wasn't this run of X-Men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. This is directly out of the comics of the time.
This is because I remember that was one of the things I loved about it. It was like, no, the show looked exactly like the comics. The way they were drawn, the way they dressed, like it was the exact comic thing. But to your point about Magneto, realistically, what's great about Magneto's character is Magneto in and of himself isn't necessarily a villain. Like, he really isn't a villain if you really think about just his story. I mean, yes, they've portrayed him as a villain in certain situations, like he's done things, but like, he may be a villain to the human race, but he's genuinely a hero to the mutant race. Like,
I think Magneto has the best lines in this series. Like, he has the coldest one-liners I have 100%, ever heard.
100%.
Like, when he's got all of the UN people like in the air on that floating island, he's like, what did he say? I am trying to be better. Please don't make me let you down.
Yes, that's crazy. But what's crazy about that? Man. And that's good. So like, so That's kind of what I mean. So leading up to that, the whole episode, it's like, okay, knowing what you know about Magneto, knowing what you know about his animosity toward the human race, and just that. And again, that's one of those things where, like you said, you didn't see the original series, so you don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. But basically, just yeah, like he is. The whole time I was just waiting, like I was Scott Summers this whole episode. I'm like, okay, when's the shoe gonna drop? Okay, there was so many instances in the episode where like, oh wait, is this it? Nope. Is this it? Nope. Is this it? Nope. And then when Rogue and him was touching and Gambit's like, oh man, Gambit was not happy about that. When she walked out of Magneto's room.
Very weird too.
It was like
what?
What?
Magneto is so old. It's just like, I was very uncomfortable with that whole aspect of the show.
He is, but like not in this version of Magneto, he's not that old. Because you got to understand too, the version of Magneto was from the '90s run of the comic, which was it's just it's meant to be. Yeah, he was always like fit for his age. Just put it that way. But. The cool thing about it is, and then like what happened, like the UN comes and they're like, yeah, no, we're not just about to sit here and let you, be here like you're a terrorist and all that stuff. And then I thought, yep, this is it. He's gonna see this is what I mean and just wreck them all. And it's like, nope, he didn't do it. He let him arrest him, and I'm like, okay. And I was so on edge with that the whole episode where I'm like, okay, is this it? Is this the part? Is he gonna betray him now? And then it's like he's talking in the UN, and it's like, yeah, no, he 100% is. He 100% was like the trial. It was like, yeah, no, they're trying to get him. They're trying to gotcha him. And he was holding his own and composure. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's not going to be bad. And then the Executioner shows up.
What a goofy name as well. Executioner.
I mean, again, 90s.
I love it. I love it.
Well, when he started attacking.
It so much.
Oh, and then Jean going into labor, of course, was like, what? And then they actually had the baby birth, and I'm like, whoa, they went for it. It was umbilical cord and everything in the scene. I'm like, well, this is what we're watching.
This series does something where it delivers its message without preaching or upsetting people.
Yes. 100% yes.
There's a magic to the X-Men that transcends the political divide, I feel.
Yup. Yeah. Like, legit. And in that fight in the UN or the courtroom or wherever the heck they were at, and then at one point, Cyclops gets his visor knocked off, and so he's, like, fighting without his visor, which was crazy. And, like...
And then they have Rogue fly him away? It's like, what?
So, well, they had to have him fly. They had him fly because his baby was being born. So, like, they made that choice.
Yeah, I get it. It's just like, man, it feels like there was pressing things happening. Couldn't he have called an Uber?
No, I understood that. That was a valid way that this played out. And it did. But see, that's the thing. Even in that situation, it played out in a way that I feel like in real life it probably would have played out. They're like, no. Like when you think about the X-Men, who they are and their morality, it's like, no. Like his wife is calling him and he's like, whoa. And then Rogue goes to, you know what I mean? It's like, are you not going to be there? Are you not going to be there for your kid's birth? Like in this? And it's like,
that is like, true.
But then it's like, you forget, yes, Scott is the leader, but like Storm is like second in command. So, you know what I mean?
That's fair,
so
that's
it's
fair.
like,
and he wanted her to take over. He wanted Storm to take over the X-Men, right? Like that was, and before her powers got shot out, he wanted her to take over the X-Men.
Exactly, yeah.
And she does. She does take over the X-Men in All New X-Men.
Yeah, so eventually, but like, yeah, so... It was, even in that situation, like, when it comes down to it, it's like, yeah, no, you forget. Rogue is definitely just as much a badass when it comes to to leading the team and just like that was one thing that has always been prevalent. Scott and Storm are master and commander, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, second in command, first
master and commander,
captain and first officer. You know what I mean? Like if Scott's not there, Rogue is in charge. If Rogue is not there, it's like Storm's not there, then I guess who would be after Storm? If I'm really thinking about it, because it was like Xavier. If he wasn't there, Scott was in charge. If Scott wasn't there, Aurora was in charge. And if Aurora's not there and none of them are there, then like they just kind of are of their own devices. I guess Hank would be the next,
Oh, interesting. So I guess like in the comics, when it's not Storm or Scott, it's usually Wolverine.
Well, in this version of it, is what I'm talking about. Because
I don't feel like I'm familiar enough with this version of the characters to say.
I got you. I feel
maybe
like
Nightcrawler actually. I feel like Nightcrawler. Also, where is Iceman? Where is my boy Bobby?
No, he wasn't really in the other series to begin with. But right now in this, it's like so Storm being the logical choice, and he's like go ahead. She's like, go ahead. You go do what you got to do. We got this. And that was cool. And then convincing the UN to unlock his chains and restraints. Like, ooh. Because immediately, as soon as he gives her power, she's like, I need you to go here. I need you there. She like Captain America did and said, I need this blocked over here. And they're like, all right, bet. And they just did it. Like,
yeah. And he doesn't even hurt anyone. He puts down barriers so that they can't move. It just, oh man. He really was trying to be better, and they really were pushing it. Like, you could tell Magneto was holding back something fierce.
I'm talking about how Storm was like being like, no, she's at one point, I think at one point someone said something there, she's like, be silent, and I'm like, ooh, go girl. Like, for real. She was like trying to she was like, release Magneto, and they're like, no, he's Magneto. She's like, be silent, and I'm like, ooh.
Like Captain America in the first Avengers movie. I get you now. I get you. I thought you were reading like how she was being tactical and like ordering the people around.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. She got up on the table. She started saying what needs to do. You need to go block this. You need to go do that. And then she was like, you need to and then release Magneto. And they're like, nah, bro, we're not releasing him. He's then. She's like, be silent and like release him. And Magneto's like, whoa. And then like he was shocked when they actually did it. But Magneto doing it, and he legitimately, I'm like, this is gonna be, he's gonna be like, nope, he's not gonna take it. And then sure enough, when Storm sacrifices herself, he started making his monologue. I'm like, oh yes, this is it. He's about to be the bad guy again. And then we get the scene, takes him up into the air, and he cries, bro. He cries and says,
man, I love how Executioner also was shown to be just a filthy coward.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. I love the way that there is absolutely nuance to all of the characters, and then sometimes they just let the villain be a spineless worm, and that's enough.
I thought for sure he was gonna like kill Executioner, and he said it was just so good, man. I was literally just like locked in, and he said this, and he was monologuing. He brought him up to the top of the world and said what he said, and when he cried, I'm like, oh, so he's genuinely going to honor Charles. He's genuinely gonna do what he said he was gonna do. And I'm like, this is awesome.
And he does honor Charles until his dying breath.
All right.
Honestly, this is my favorite version of Magneto.
Yeah.
I've seen in something. Like, no disrespect to Ian McKellen or Michael Fassbender, but like this Magneto just hits something different.
Well, see, that's why like I would recommend you definitely, when you get a chance, just kind of watch the original series, and you'll see, because even in the 2000s, even when the movies came out late, for a lot of people, this version of the X-Men is like the standard. For a lot of people, this version of the X-Men is the like go-to like whatever, you know what I mean? Standard. What I just said. But that's what makes it so good, because
the definitive
version. A lot of people you'll ask and be like, "What X?" Yeah. So all what people know about the characters and also for a lot of people, this is where they pull from. Because to be honest with you, I feel like this was one of those things where like X-Men was definitely, this kind of brought it to the forefront more than it did prior. I mean, X-Men were famous, but this really was like, this made X-Men kind of like a household name kind of thing, in my opinion.
I get you. I mean, it stood up there with Spider-Man in the animation department.
So, and then now...
Honestly, episode 3, I did not care for episode 3.
Really? I was going to say...
I thought it was mid.
Episode 3, I thought was legit, because I was like, again, it's like they're tackling these things. I mean, you see a little bit of Morph's, like just... Because when he disappeared in the, again, man, see a lot of this, I feel like if you watched the original series and you watched it, I feel like this episode wouldn't be as boring to you, because there's a lot that just kind of like they touch on when it comes to because like the Phoenix Force thing and all this other stuff, and then Morph's reaction to Sinister and it being Mr. Sinister and understanding why this is such a like, holy crap, it's Mr. Sinister, and the past they have with him. Yeah, this episode was intense. And then I
do know Mr. Sinister from the comics and like the shenanigans he gets up to there, so I feel like the weight of the villain I still felt, and like seeing what they're doing with Cable and doing his origin story basically exactly like it happened in the comics was also really cool to see.
Right. But that's what made this episode, I think, cool, because like especially when they were like fighting and like the illusions, it's like, it was just
I love Beast. He's like, oh, excuse me, I think one of us has the wrong floor.
Yep, that was crazy. And then they even like when Morph, and see, this is cool about it. Morph is like, he was like a good example of like mental health and tragedy and trauma, and the way because from the cartoon, because like there was a moment in this episode where like he was really flustered and like he just was off guard, and he like morphed back into his original self, and he has the dark circles under his eyes, and the like he's back in his like after he was captive form, and it's like, oh man, they're really hitting everything with this. And so, and then the technovirus, and when they were fighting her in the castle, and then like he hit her with the optic blast, she bled, and then they kissed each other. I'm like, oh, we doing that kind of stuff right now? I'm like, she's villain in this one.
She was also in some of the recent Spider-Man stuff when he got he was stabbed by a demonic sword that made all of Norman Osborn's negative qualities get transferred into him. And the Goblin Queen helped him to get over that. Yeah.
She was definitely she was putting the work in on this fight. Like, this was an intense battle. The animation was legit. The suspense of it all. When Jean came back and was like, she was like, oh my God, and she was feeling the presence, and then it's like, that was. It was legit. Like, I had no complaints about it because I was locked in the whole episode. And when Mr. Sinister...
I really like the end where the two Jeans have their little psychic conversation. And then when Madeline puts a hand out to Scott and let's go save our son. Like, that hit for me.
Yeah.
But the rest of the episode I just felt was... I don't know, it didn't... After the highs of the first two episodes, episode 3 did let me down. I won't lie to you. And episode 4 as well.
I can understand that. What? Really? Okay, yeah, no, you definitely need to go back and watch the series. Like, for real. You definitely got to go watch the series.
I know who Mojo is.
No, I don't mean...
I know what they're doing.
I don't mean in the sense of, like, so you can understand the characters and the... No, I mean, like, you just got to go watch it. You have to go... When you go watch the series, you'll understand why these 2 episodes are actually on par and kind of right on track with it. But... back to this episode.
Like, isn't it a objective viewing then? Because I'm watching this as someone who hasn't seen the series, so I don't have those rose-colored glasses. So this is just on the pure merits of it being a TV show. The first 2 episodes hit, and I think were like the top bar for Western animation. And then episodes 3 and 4 just weren't. They each had their own self-contained story, but they didn't reach the highs of the first 2 episodes. That's all.
Like, I will give you this. I will say that the episode 3 and 4 were definitely they were definitely like you said, isolated incidents. They were very.
Like, I don't think they're bad, but like going from a 9 or a 10 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10 still feels like a come down.
Yeah, I feel that. I can understand that. I also, too, for me, I thought it was a good episode where, like, especially after, like, how Scott was reacting to it all. Like, I thought it was perfect. Like, honestly, I genuinely was like, yeah, Scott, no, I get you. I understand why you're feeling, and like, I understand why you left and why you were like, no, I can't do this. It's like, that makes sense. And then just, yeah, I mean, in Scott's position, I feel like he's the one, like, there should be nobody being mad at Scott for his feelings in this situation.
Yeah, he was very reasonable the whole way through.
He is in love with Jean Grey. Bottom line, Jean Grey is his wife. Jean Grey is the mother of his child, and he is in love with her. Far as he knew, he was loving the Jean Grey he grew up with. Everything when it comes to it. To find out that... And then now they don't even, and then also too, they don't even know who is who really, like, outside of the fact that Mr. said no, confirmed she is the clone. It's like their memories are the same. One remembers everything, one still pieces together, but it's like, who married him? Who's he married to? You know what I mean? The only sure fact, the only 100% like for sure thing is Madeline is the mother of Nathan. Like, that is 100% everything else. So Scott, I couldn't even imagine being in that position. Like, they really didn't like shy away from that. Like,
it's complex. Like, that's the thing. There are 3 things. I think it was Nando V Movies who said there are 3 things you need to get right when you're adapting the X-Men. You need to do the backflips, you need to do the soap opera, and you need to do the social commentary. Yeah. It's like,
well balanced and all of that.
X-Men has always been like about the oppression of minorities and marginalized groups. It's always been about action, and it's always been about like the classic soap opera love triangles. This one's pregnant. This one got the other one's pregnant. Whose baby is it really? And like through it all, you have a bald guy in charge. Soap opera staples.
Yeah. So, all in all, I thought episode 3 was all right. It was good. Now, episode 4, I will give it to you. Episode 4 was definitely a kind of, I felt like it was a filler. It felt very fillery. However, it's
the weakest in the series so far.
It definitely was like, I feel like if this episode wasn't there, we definitely could move on. It was like, however, I was highly entertained with it. Nevertheless, I feel like this episode was 100% a nostalgia, like a grab for it, because the way they were in the video game, and then like even the music that they were playing in the video game world over the soundtrack was like, oh yeah, it's like from the video game, and like because like that side scroller like arcade X-Men game, like everything about it was like in that.
I've played that. I've played the arcade game. I was always Colossus.
I liked getting that nice little Jubilee, like, kind of, by herself kind of thing.
I feel like for a lot of people, Jubilee was probably their into the X-Men.
Yeah.
Like how Rogue was with the 2000s movies, like how Kitty Pryde was for people watching Evolution.
Yeah.
I feel like Jubilee for 90s kids and early 2000s kids, like that was who the X-Men was to them.
Right.
So I feel like getting a Jubilee-centric episode is a bit of fan service, and I think it works fine enough. it didn't hit. Like, I don't understand what the episode was trying to tell me, you know?
It
It just
literally,
felt like
that's
there
what I
was
mean. Like
always
that,
something underneath the action with the first two episodes. Whereas in the third and the fourth, like at least the third one had this emotional family drama stick. The fourth episode was just kind of like, oh, Jubilee wants to live in the status quo forever because she's turning 18. It didn't hit as hard.
no, I feel that, but again, like when I look at it, it's one of those things where like it was just a good, fun kind of, hey, here's Jubilee doing what Jubilee does, and like I like it because Jubilee was definitely like getting that aspect of like I want to have my birthday, I want to do this, but at the same time, it's like yeah, Mojo. It was always fun seeing a Mojo World episode, for sure, but. The part that confused me, and this is the part that I was like, you know what? I need to go do some research in the comics on this one. Is the storm part of the episode? Like it was.
Oh, that's
nice.
also straight out of the comics.
Yeah, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, okay, I want to know because it's like it was good, and like, and I know it was a time jump, so like you know all that because you know Ford talking about something I love you, and it's clear they were together. They've been together for a while, but.
Man, that was out of nowhere.
How it
Holy
ended?
shit!
What was out of nowhere?
Forge saying he loves Storm. That was just like, bro, you've been on 2 horsey rides. What are you talking about?
It was very clear in the episode that they were time jumping. Like there was, they for sure wasn't like it wasn't like a day, 2 days go by and then he's in. No, like they clearly have been chilling together for a minute. You know what I mean? But the ending with the owl, I'm like, well, that's confusing. Well, I was like, what is happening? So I got to go research that and find that out. But yeah, so far up until this point, I was not disappointed. And then comes episode 5.
Have you seen the show Legion?
Yes, not all of it, but. Like the first season.
The ending, that owl thing, right? It's giving me serious Legion vibes.
Really?
Like, you know the Shadow King that he has in his head in Legion?
I don't know, man. I only saw it like when it was on TV, so I don't remember so much about it. I just know the guy was crazy. He had like multiple voices or something.
Have you seen the movie The New Mutants?
Yes, I did.
I think the bad thing there is like connected to this. However, it's an owl and not a bear, so I don't know if it's the same.
I don't know. That's why I said I got to do some research and really go dive deep into that because I'm trying to see. But yeah, but this
basically what I'm trying to say is if I had a nickel for every time that an X-Men character had an unstoppable entity that feasts on their despair, brother, I'd have 3 nickels.
Yup. At least. So let's unpack episode 5, and I want to do this one. Let's do this chronological from beginning of episode to end of episode, like because this episode, when I say, in my opinion, has some of the most complex. There's not a lot happening action wise until the end of the episode, but throughout the episode, the complexity of the characters of the just subject matter and like. Going all the way back to the beginning with the interviews when that lady was interviewing everybody and, you know, everybody's trying to be all, like Beast is being all, you know, Beast and Hank McCoy and trying to be all that. And then they're talking, you know, interjecting that with Rogue and Magneto and Gambit going to Genosha because they calling for a meeting and that's cool with the whole UN thing. So, like, the emotions and the things, like, even just the, like, the 3 of them on the X-Jet, like, just being in the same room, like, knowing that, like, okay, yeah, there's a triangle here. Like, Rogue is clearly the prize between these 2 guys. Like, you figure Magneto and Gambit are the Wolverine and Cyclops and Rogue's Jean Grey.
Like, Rogue, yeah. You know I got that vibe.
So, yeah, but just the feeling
Genosha. It's not even Krakoa, it's Genosha.
Yeah, God. I didn't know what you were talking about, so I just was
I'm dumb. Magneto has 2 mutant islands. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So Genosha, when they were flying to Genosha, and then even when they get there, and it's like, you know, the music that was playing, the way, like, just they're happy, and I'm like, I was rocking with the music and the vibe, and I'm like, okay, mutants are living there, and like, it was great. And then Nightcrawler shows up.
And then Cable shows up, and he's like, "You gotta get them out. Stop the music.
Hold on. That's
Shut
what I'm
down
saying.
the music."
That's what I'm saying. Let's unpack this one
Oh,
chronologically.
you're talking about the happy music from earlier in the episode.
Yeah, let's break this one chronologically. We're gonna go from beginning to end on this episode because there's a lot to unpack. So,
man,
going up
Jean
until the
kissing Wolverine, though, that was also in that part of the episode.
Yeah, it was like introduced. So that's what I mean. So like in part of Genosha, the part of the interview, the doing all that, the part where it's just so good up until the Genosha part, and then up until the part where like, because right after the Jean kiss, then it ends that section of the episode ends with Scott being like, you know, like, you people
snapping
like,
at the interviewer.
Like,
oh man, he literally hit them with the "you people." That
was like really good because they really brought the, I don't want to say fear, but they really, really, really kind of, that's what I mean with the emotion that they're getting out of an animated character, bro. Like an animated character. I'm sitting here looking at these characters, they're drawing, their animation, but I'm getting real people from them.
Yeah.
Like you said, when Jean kissed Wolverine, was like, she just turned around, just made out with him. It was like, it clearly was one of those things where it's like a reflex, a reaction where it's like she's trying to figure her memories out, and there's feelings that she's always had for Wolverine that tension was there, but like she just didn't have, and it was like Wolverine's reaction to it was heartbreaking. Well, heartbreaking.
I mean, I'm not super familiar with this era of the comics, but I would not be surprised if Scott ends up with one of the genes and Wolverine ends up with the other. That seems like what this is leading to.
Well, see, because in this generation, like, so there always has been from this series, or even in the comics a little bit, there's always been that triangle when it came for Jean, Scott, and
it's much better
Wolverine.
than the original love triangle. Because do you know who the third wheel on the love triangle was originally between Jean and Scott?
It was it Emma Frost? No. Who was it?
It was Professor X.
Was it? Okay.
Dead ass, dude. He was creeping on Jean in the early comics, and it was weird.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was uncomfortable.
The thing I like about this is it's one of those, which is why this is the version of the love triangle I grew up with. I didn't even know about the Charles Xavier one. That's crazy. But this was cool. So like,
I don't know what Stan Lee was cooking, but don't let him back in the kitchen, bro. Whoa.
But back to what I was saying about the kiss, it's like Wolverine's reaction to this, like I felt it. The emotion, it's like I felt it because knowing what I know about Wolverine in this era of Wolverine, like he wanted to just. He wanted to just be like, say less. You know what I mean? Like, he wanted to. But the way his answer to what she said is like, you're Jean Grey, he's got Summers, those are the rules. Like,
you just forgot how it worked for a moment.
Yeah, it's like, wow. He really, really like, oh man, like that goes to show you just the integrity that Logan has. That is the integrity of this man. The woman that he is pining for. He is in love with this woman. Like, he would die for this woman. And she just embraced him in a way he wants her to embrace him. And it's like, nah, he can't do it. So the emotion in this first part, like, and it was only like, I think it was like the first 10 like minutes 10 of minutes the episode.
Yeah.
So it's like, dang, they really put a lot in 10 minutes that just really kind of set it up, you know, like I said. And then just the way Scott goes off on the reporter and he says what he says, like, I had to give up my son and all this, and it was just like, and yeah, all I know is
I love Nightcrawler in this as well. He's delightful.
Oh yeah, he definitely can. And then even Nightcrawler's little speech to Gambit about Rogue, like, come on, man, love is a sin, and da 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 da. And it's like, wow, it's like,
oh, what was it? He said, love is measured in the things we forgive.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was like, marry her. And
I don't know about that, bro. I don't know about that.
the way they set this up, this is why like I'm saying like let's do this like chronologically, because the way they set this up, I 100% was like, oh no, yeah, Rogue and Gambit are about to get together in this. They are about to like, yeah, no, this is it. This is officially where they're going to be together, because in the comics there is actual lore in the comics where Gambit and Rogue do. Like they kiss, they hold each other, they hit because it's something with Gambit's powers.
It's really weird for me because Gambit in the comics, he's got like an energy field around him that allows Rogue to touch him without harming him.
Yeah,
is that not a thing in the show?
Well, I don't know. Like I don't know if because I could have sworn I remember in the old series like there was moments
like that's
where
the whole reason that they're a thing in the comics, because she can touch Gambit.
Right, and I could have sworn they touched on it back in the. But anyway, it goes. There's something he does with his powers where it's like either it's he puts something his power around the thing in whatever it is in his brain that like will. Bottom line is they can touch. So I'm watching this episode and I'm seeing all this. Nightcrawler's talking to him. The looks they're giving each other. She turns back at one point and waves at him with a smile. Like, oh yeah, no, Gambit and Rogue are getting together this episode. This Magneto stuff is gonna get squashed and they're getting together. And it was like
aged like milk.
And so then you get in from there. You're like, okay, so I'm happy about that. Then you get into the whole making him the leader and the like representative of the union and like having old girl there, and like he's like, nah. But yeah, he's like, nah, I'll do it, but under one condition. And we go flashed over to Rogue, and it's like, wow, he wants Rogue to be his wife. Okay.
His queen. Oh man, that was so scummy. I don't
know. Like, I mean, I get it.
That whole exchange felt straight out of a comic, though. I've got no proof, but I bet that dialogue is like ripped right off the page. Also, when they go into that board meeting and we see Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost up in this bitch.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, already the love triangle is just getting even worse.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then Moira McTaggart was in there too, so that's cool.
And Banshee! Oh man, love Banshee. Banshee is phenomenal. Yeah. So Irish.
So this is where the episode really, like, after this, because then he says, he explains the Rogue, and then we go from Magneto and Rogue talking, and like, yeah, that's one of those things where it was like, okay, cool. And then going from that to her explaining to Gambit everything, and Gambit's response. Oh, let's not forget too. We got Scott Summers cheating on Jean Grey with Madeline Pryor in his mind, and Jean's like, "Oh hell no!"
Yeah, man, that's so crazy. Because like, that's also a thing with Emma Frost and Jean in the comics. Like they bicker about that
especially
all
in the
time.
in the Ultimate comics with that, and especially in that, and especially in the version of the X-Men that the Wolverine X-Men was based off of, yeah. Because at one point in that version of things, like Scott actually genuinely becomes like entwined with Emma, and like they like end up like together and stuff like that. But in this episode,
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
in the all new X-Men era as well. When Scott is in his anti-hero phase, he and Emma are like fully a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because in that universe, I think Jean is either dead or presumed dead. But the thing about this goes back to what I was saying about Scott. Be like, I understand where he's coming from. I understand that he's going through these things. So like for Jean to get upset at him like she did, it's like she was like, that was our thing, our mental touch thing. It was like, well, no, because you were gone for long enough for him to impregnate this girl. Like, so of course he's been doing this with her this whole time, thinking it was
because she didn't know any better as well.
Right. So it's like neither one of them, nobody in the equation knew what was going on. So you got to look at it from Scott's perspective. Scott's been with the same woman this whole time in his mind. All these little things and all these little quirks and ticks and things that he's developed. Like he's got two now developments of things with two different Jean Greys. It's like you can't get mad at the man for doing this. That is outside of all of it, that is the mother of his child. Like, of course he's going to be having a mental link with her. Like, come on. Like, what are you upset about? Like, for real. Like,
I mean, I guess it is kind of like texting your ex, but also like it really isn't, because
it really isn't.
there's a lot there, and this has been happening. It feels like it happened so quickly. He needs time to process this. So, but also, Jean found out she was fully replaced by a clone of her that married her boyfriend and had a baby. Like, holy shit. Can you imagine what that must do to a
100%.
person?
Yeah, no, 100%. I do agree with you on that, and that's like what I was. And that's what I was gonna say next. It's like cool. Like that being said about Scott, it's also too like you totally understand Jean's side of things too. Like in Jean's mind, she was just with Scott, and all this stuff was out, and now she's like coming back to that. So it's like, yeah, you can understand why she's upset, but it's like, man, they just both need to understand this is weird, like for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But I feel like for Scott more though, it's because Scott, again, Jean is very, she knows. So she, in Jean's side, she just has a gap of memories that aren't hers, because all the memories that but see, the thing is, the reason why it's because she was linked with the Mora or whatever, like not Mora, Madeline. She was linked. Sinister had them linked the whole time, which is why the whole episode of that story was like them, and why she was like saying, I don't know what memories are mine and what memories are hers, because far as real Jean is concerned, all of that happened to her as well.
Yeah.
That's why the whole thing is, but the only reason why they know who was the clone, who wasn't, is because it was told, like, no, you are the clone. Like, that's the only reason why they know. So it's like, oh man, like, even though, like, and so in Jean's mind, yeah, it's been, in her mind, her memories are faded and locked. It was like, yeah, no, this was the thing. But for Scott, it's like, no, Scott has not only the memories, but the physical memories to it as well. Like,
and for him, it was like he never even noticed. Like, there was no change, and then suddenly his wife is just there, and it's just like, which one was the Phoenix, and which one?
Exactly, man. And it's like, so as far as Scott concerned, it's like, how do you comprehend that? You know what I mean? Like, it's like he's been like he has a whole child with this woman, and it's like, wow. And so, I mean, technically, Nathan is Jean Grey's son because it's the same DNA. However, it's like you go down that rabbit hole. It's like, no, I understand why Scott was sitting there in a mental like hookup with his mother of his child. You know what I mean? Like, it made sense to me, and I understand why Jean was mad.
Is still so raw. They just lost their child. Like, it is completely natural for them to want to find comfort with
each episode there's been a time jump. Like, you got to look at it too. Like, you got to understand that this isn't just. Like,
I don't think the feeling of losing a child ever really.
No, you're right.
Dampens with time.
No, you're right. But I'm just saying, like, the stuff that they're talking about and going on, it's been days, and like I think he's in the show, he says it's been a month or whatever since, like, the Nathaniel thing happened. But like, it's all I know is like that was where it got really crazy, and then like the whole Rogue thing, and then it's like the what's it call it, and then they start having the just before all of that though. Let's talk about The Watcher.
The Watcher?
You didn't see it?
I didn't see it. What do you mean?
The Watcher is in this episode. It's a blink
and
you miss
it.
Yes. So at the beginning of the Genosa party, right after Rogue, so Remy's saying what he said to Rogue about, look, let's just how it is. We just friends, all that stuff.
Yeah?
And it's like, that was crazy. But right after that, there's like, he says, we're just friends. And then it goes to this, it's a picture. It's like the sky right before the fireworks are going off. And you see Uatu. He's just staring at it. And it's like, oh no.
Holy shit. I see. I just Googled it. Holy shit.
Yeah. He is there.
Oh, I think I watched this on my phone, so I think that's why I missed this.
I missed it, and I watched it on my TV, and I missed it. The only reason why I saw it is because I was watching a TikTok, and it was like, and then she was like, "Oh, seeing the Watcher." I'm like, "Watcher?" And I'm like, "What?" And I went back, and I was like, "Where?" And I looked, and sure enough, and then it's like, if I'd have saw Watcher the first watch, and I'm glad I didn't peep it when I was the first through. When I was watching, I'm glad I didn't see it, because Watcher only shows up when something significant in that universe is gonna happen. And so
when there's something worth watching.
Yeah. So when I went back, I'm glad I didn't see it, because I didn't even peep it because I was so locked in. But the fact that Watcher was there and the fireworks go off and you're like, oh no. But even the Genosa party, like the way she walks in and then like they're like talking or we're trying to make the decision. And when Rogue walks into Ace of Base, don't even get me started, bro. That was a badass scene. I'm not gonna hold you.
And the dancing in the air and the callback to how Magneto told Rogue about like we're gonna have our own mutant dance and mutant art and stuff, and it's just like, oh man, that's so compelling,
bro.
Because if you could do that, why wouldn't you?
Right. But dude, the way she showed up and the way she just flew out, and then like I said, Ace of Base started playing, and I'm like, what? Don't even get me started about Ace of Base, but the music, I was just locked in. I was like, okay, this is intense. And then Gambit's looking there just like, yeah, no, they touch, and he's like, no, I'm out. Nope. It was so...
And then the callback to what, just like without even words, the callback to Rogue telling Remy there's more to it than touch. Gambit saying there's more to it than touch, and Rogue being like, not in this. And then you can just see it in her eyes as she's like, nah.
And then even
Gambit was right.
And then even this is like, and then Gambit, the emotion he just had in that and walking away, he literally just said, we just friends. And it's like, oh, it's so intense emotional. But then let me just tell you, this is not just a kid show anymore. The way they were dancing in the air, bro, like...
Yeah, dude, that felt like... I was like, man, I'm not watching this with my sister.
100%. I was like, I am a little bit uncomfortable right now. Like, this is crazy. But that whole scene, the dancing...
like, I was watching it on my phone, and I just, like, peeped around my shoulder like, man, I hope nobody walks in right now.
That was intense, bro. They were, like, when she was, like... Yeah, that was crazy. And, like, he was literally just, like... kissing her neck. I'm like, whoa, what is happening right now? And then like
it was
the way and then okay, they kiss and then she says what she says, but then like the Madeline Price and Jean Grey vision interjected with the music, and it's like, turn the music off. I'm like, and the blood, and it's like I'm like, bro, I'm like, what is happening right now? And I'm just like not knowing what's going on, and I'm just sitting here like locked in the Ace of Base song, the blood, the like, oh, it's so much happening, and I'm like, what is going on?
No matter if it's Krakoa or Genosha or Asteroid M, name a better duo than the mutant population and getting genocided. Like, there just is no better combo meal.
Well, even before that, there's still like the between. She kissed Magneto and she's like, Remy's right. Like, I choose Remy. I choose Gambit. Like, leaving Magneto on the dance floor, like, nah, bro, like this. So you're like, bet she's going to go get Gambit. They're going to kiss. It's going to be a big thing. And then Madeline having the thing, when she walks out and Cable is there, like, wait, who's coming? What's happening? And then he body slides. I'm like, what is going on? And then it happens. And then it happens.
Dude, oh man,
that explosion!
I don't even know what that Sentinel thing is, because it looked like partially organic. Do you think it's got something to do with like Cable's virus, the techno-organic virus that takes over Cable's anatomy?
It definitely does not. But here's what I need to know. I want to ask you a question. When Cable got sucked back, and then like the green light, and then the explosion. What was in that moment, what was your expression? What was your, like, when that happened, what was your reaction?
My reaction was, the X-Men and getting genocided, name a better combo, I'll wait. I was like, oh man, they're gonna decimate some mutants, and Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit are gonna rock up.
I'm talking about the initial, not knowing what was about to happen.
That was my initial reaction.
Really? Okay.
After the Inhumans and X-Men event, after Genosha, like, the X-Men in the comics have gotten genocided so many times. Whenever I see the mutants becoming a nation in and of itself and it looks peaceful, I'm like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's gotten to a point where I am basically surprised when they don't get genocided.
So my reaction when I saw this,
like seeing Cable coming in, right? That tells me he's coming in from the future. He's warning them about something. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, they're gonna get genocided. I was expecting it. I was expecting it to happen. So when the explosions and stuff go off, I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Then I saw the Sentinel, and I'm like, I don't recognize that. I don't know what that is. Holy shit. What is going on?
Well, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what to expect. All I know is, so in my initial reaction to just the explosion, not anything else, like not knowing what the explosion was, because when it exploded, it was just like he got sucked in and it was just a bright green light, and then all you see is just like people getting Rogue flying through the air, and you're like, and I remember I was sitting at my desk, I was sitting in the computer, I was watching it. Literally, my jaw was on the ground. I'm just like I'm frantically looking at the screen, my heart's beating. I'm like, what just happened? Did everybody just die? What's going on? And then you see everybody's just like, whatever. And then you see the Sentinel
saving everyone.
Yeah, like, what is going on? Banshee flying, all that stuff, and you're like, what is happening? And then you see it.
Oh man, Banshee! Banshee gets fucking obliterated. Sorry for the language. That was insane, dude. When I saw Banshee get blasted.
Yeah, that's when I was like, the whole time all this was happening, I literally was just like, because even Nightcrawler got blasted, even though he was trying to think, like, I'm literally, the whole time I'm watching this, I'm just like, whoa. I'm like, what is happening? At one point I was standing up, I'm just like holding my head, I'm just watching it unfold. What is going on? And I'm like, holy crap.
When Banshee got blasted, I went from, oh, okay, they're gonna genocide a bunch of nameless mutants again, to, oh no, they are actually going for it, and people are going to die. And at that point, it went from, oh, this is gonna be a fun fight with mutants defending their home island from the Sentinels, to this has stakes. This is terrifying.
So from this point on, so there's from like as soon as Magneto, and he's like, Rogue, Gambit, you go get the whatever, and that's when it was like, okay, I'm like, this is where I'm locked in, because then nothing that happens in a minute when we talk about it, I was expecting to happen. I wasn't expecting none of what's about to happen. All I know is Magneto was on the fight. Gambit and Rogue going down the street on the motorcycle and flying with the theme song playing. Like, I was like, yeah, that's right. We're fighting back. I'm like, yo, no, we got this. They about to work this dude. They got the surprise.
Dude, the way that Magneto says, let us not regret the people we couldn't save, or the way he said his man. And Magneto in this episode, and getting Leech and the Morlocks. Oh man, do you think Magneto died because he saved Leech?
No. So here's what I was trying to say. So before that point, before all that happens, the fight that Rogue and Magneto and Gambit were doing, because again, all that happens at the end, but the fight, they did a real good job of setting up like, oh no, they're about to win. Like, they were messing with us, like, no, they're going ham. Magneto's bringing the full force of his power. He's flying. Rogue and Gambit are doing their thing. And then when they're like, okay,
they land a single hit on that Sentinel.
They did, 100%. They were fighting, and then the Sentinel was throwing them around. But then, like, the best part of this, so then we get from that, Magneto is fighting, and he goes in, but, like, he gets a little sidetracked because, remember, when he was fighting the Sentinel, the thing knocked him into Charles's statue, and then Charles's statue fell on a bunch of mutants and killed them all. So it caused Magneto to like freak out, because he was like, no, and he's like, they shall be avenged, and started hitting him with that train, and he was just whipping him, like he was knocking him out.
I remember the train.
He was just whipping it. And then the Morlock scene was so good, because they were so like, oh, they're gonna save us. They're like, the X-Men are here. The X-Men don't care about us. And then Gambit comes in, and he's like the most coolest Gambit moment ever. And I'm like, this is dope.
Riding it on the head of the Sentinel.
Yo, and he was like, hello. He was like, oh my god. It was like, yep, they're getting ready. The X-Men theme song playing when he jumps through the window though, and just like, yeah, no, that's Gambit. That's my Gambit right there. Like, for real, for real. See, right here, this is an example of why the Gambit that they portrayed in X-Men Origins was so angry to me. Because when I see Gambit, this is what Gambit is to me. This is the Gambit that I see. But the way he came in there and just was like, hey, what's up, people? Like, so nonchalant. Like, they were just like, X-Men aren't going to save us, and then X-Men saves you.
For the rest of my life, when I hear the words remember it, I'm gonna tear up.
Okay, we're not there yet. We'll get to that. So, leading up to that, seeing that, like, this is the point where I started to think something was going to happen, because I'm like, why are they focusing so much on Gambit right now? Why are they focusing so much on Wolverine and Magneto right now? Because the feelings I'm having, especially when Magneto gets knocked out, and then Gambit, didn't he like use his scarf to like blow something up?
Yeah, the scarf. Oh man, that was so sick. The way he whips it. Oh man, it just Gambit is so sick.
Right. Now,
he didn't feature heavily in the comics I read, or at least I think I missed the runs where he was really prevalent, because my exposure to Gambit has basically been through video games essentially, and then tangentially through other media, but he's never like featured as a character for me. And like seeing him like this made me a Gambit fan through and through, dude. He's so cool.
Yeah, so now we are here. We are at the part. We're gonna go. I'm gonna just kind of describe this scene like bit by bit as we're talking about it. Now this is where things got real, because I was like, cool, Rogue and Gambit need to be together, and there's gotta be a reason. But like Magneto's at, so I'm like, okay, Magneto. He's like, the Sentinel's like Omega threat level detected, and then they start off showing Rogue and Gambit, and I'm like, wait, what? And then it pans over to Magneto with the force field protecting the Morlocks and Leech, and then like I'm like, what's happening? Oh no! And I'm like sitting there, right? So Magneto sees what's about to happen, sees Rogue is about to thing, and saves Rogue. When he says to Leech, he looks down at him and he goes, what does he say? He says something about like, don't be afraid or something. I think he says,
be not afraid, yeah. Because when he saved Leech in episode 2, he tells him, child, you will never need to be afraid again.
Yes, exactly. So it's a good callback, but the emotion in his eyes, the emotion in Leech's eyes, he says, do not be afraid. And he has Rogue thing, and then just getting obliterated. When I tell you, this is where...
Do you think Magneto died because he had Leech with him? Do you think he could have, like...
No, because Leech, in this context, Leech controls his powers. Leech can choose when his powers are good. So it's not like he was just always had it, because even while Leech was holding on to him, he still had his force field up, but he was just not strong enough for whatever the hell was coming out of the optic blast of this robot.
What was that Sentinel?
Whatever it is, it was just crazy. Like, so Magneto did that, and Megathread eliminated, and then Rogue's reaction, bro, she busted out of that, and I'm like, no, Rogue, no.
And then Gambit throws her with the motorbike.
Like, when I saw this scene, I was like, Gambit grabs the motorbike, he comes out and he's like, zzz, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Gambit's about to use the bike to hit the Sentinel. He's gonna blow his head off with the bag. Nope, he used it to knock Rogue out the way. What? Okay, he saved Rogue from the blast. Got it. And this scene, bro, we are here. He said, hold on, let me pull it up. He says, Gambit see your bet, and raises, and he said, Gambit sees all the And I'm like, what?
That
No, he said the cards.
So
he said
guard.
the cards always be in my favor, and then boom. When I tell you,
because I thought, okay, they killed Magneto. That's gonna be it, right?
When
you
when you heard the stab, bro, immediately I was like, I stood up, I sat back, and I was like, no, and then they showed that he's impaled. When I tell you the floodgates in my eyes opened up, bro, I was in silence, just shocked silence, tears coming out of my eyes, bro. He was like, they were like, Omega level threat detected. He's like,
the Sentinel. I remember this. The Sentinel goes, mutant threat neutralized,
and then Gambit
Gambit says, the name's Gambit, mon ami.
Yeah. Remember it. Well, he's like, then when he smiled, and I was like, okay, cool. He's like, the name's Gambit, mon ami. I'm like, no! Like, I literally screamed. I was like, no!
Isn't that how he's introduced in the animated series as well?
I think so, yeah.
With that line?
Yeah,
I heard something about that.
Jubilee, when he first meets Jubilee. And, but when I was still, when he got stabbed, I was like, oh no, he's not dead. Like, he may have got stabbed, but something's like, no, he's not dead. But then the minute they showed his smile, he goes, the name's Gambit more than me, and the light started turning purple. I was like, no, because in any just comic book, superhero, hero movie, TV show, anytime one of the heroes gets into situations and they say some kind of cool one-liner, you already know what's happening next. They are about to sacrifice themselves. And when he said that, and then the Sentinel started lighting up, I was like, oh, I was
blown away.
Even though I knew what was about to happen, I'm crying, bro. I look like a little schoolgirl. I'm like sitting here, my hands on my face. I have my hands on my face, covering my nose and my mouth. I'm just like wide-eyed, tears streaming out of my eyes. No. And then when he's like, remember, and it blows up, bro. I tell you what, I was like shocked. I felt a sense of like that
even
was
attached to these characters from a nostalgia standpoint, and I was fully tearing up, dude. It hit so hard.
I was like mixed with that was badass, but at the same time, and then Rogue, this wrecked me. When I say it, she was like, I can't feel you, and I'm like, oh, bro. When she said it went black and she said it, even right now as I'm talking about it, I am tearing up right now. Just thinking about it, I'm tearing up.
Like, I was like, okay, maybe he lived somehow.
No.
Maybe he's gonna be like injured in a coma or something.
No.
Because that's what they always do. That's what they always do in the comics. People don't die. They just go into a coma for a little while to build back hype so that they can be reintroduced and sell more comics. And like, when she was like sobbing, holding Gambit and going, I can't feel you, sugar.
Yeah. Bro, when she said
that was
like,
gut punch.
When she was holding him, and then it was like, and then the screen went black, and she said that I can't feel you, sugar. Bro, I'm talking about. I was full on snot bubble, ugly crying, like what the fuck? Like bro. I'm not ashamed to say it, but I was broken. I was so broken, and I just sat there.
I can only imagine.
I sat there, bro. Like, I took my headphones off, and I'm literally just like, damn near almost having a panic attack, crying as the credits were playing. And even that was sad because the credits, it was a somber, and it's like, oh my god. And I'm genuinely I literally cried for about maybe 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes to just gather my composure. I'm getting paper towels. I'm like sitting here. I'm blowing my nose. I'm wiping. I went and put water on my face. I was weeping, bro. Like what the heck was this? And that episode legitimately solidified. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop questioning Disney when it comes to this animated stuff. Like, I'm going to stop.
Like, if this is what they plan on doing in the MCU with the X-Men, if this is the bar of quality we can expect, the MCU is back. That's all I'll say.
100%. And I will, we are way over, we are almost 2 hours on this one, but I will end with this. I will say this, the way they ended it, and then just the whole, like, the cliffhanger of it all of like, yeah, no, this is top tier. This is what we're coming for. This is storytelling at its best. And the fact that I got that messed up from a cartoon character says a lot, and I give credit where credit is due to the writers and the animators of this episode, because even the way Gambit looked, like, he looked just destroyed as everyone's looking on at him. Like, he was bleeding, half his hair was gone, like, he was burnt, bro. Dead.
I love how they have this persistent change. Like, the longer the episode goes on, their clothes were getting torn, and every time they reappeared, that persisted through. Like, they didn't go back to previous model sheets. That kept going and kept going and kept getting worse.
The damage,
incredible attention
the battle
to detail.
damage, like the blood, the teardrop. Oh my god, man! Like, it is one of those things where, no, they did something. This is something we could talk about for the next episode when it comes, because the next episode we're going to be talking about the animation stuff. This is a good example of when, like, that will come to your argument you made last week. The argument you made last week about cartoons and animated stuff being superior in a lot of ways.
Superior to live action.
This is a good example of that. Because
100%.
It's like, how, like, you should be, like, the fact that this is a cartoon and they're able to get and portray and give this emotion from a cartoon, how can you not in live action get the same thing? So it's like, but yeah. So we went a little long. So let's go ahead and we will. Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll wrap it up here. This is a good episode. We went a little longer, but there was a lot to talk about because moving forward, I think what we'll do is, like, because I don't want to miss anymore. Like, I'm glad I didn't wait to watch this because originally the plan was I was going to wait till all 10 episodes drop and binge watch it. I'm glad I didn't do that. So moving forward, we're just going to start reviewing each episode each week and having like a small section of a review when it comes to it, because I'm so jacked. And like, if they've set the bar so high with this episode, they can't come back and be these next 5 episodes.
Like, if next week is a filler episode, I don't know. I'll eat a brick.
Yeah, so I am excited. Like, this is good. It was definitely a great but yeah, we are going to just end it there. So had a good thing. Definitely, if you guys like what you're hearing, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. I'm going to put a link in the description of this one to the playlist of the Weekly Element. But yeah, and share it with your friends. Tell your people about it. I appreciate the support from those of you who are supporting. And yeah, I'm excited. Episode 4 is down. We're good. I'm excited.
It's the best one we've had yet, for sure.
Yeah, I like it. So cool. But again, Element Dynamics here signing off. And thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah. And as always, if you're looking for the Weekly Element, it's been inside you this whole time.